Picture this. You're walking along a dirt track, deep in the wilds. Your eyes scan for any movement in the trees. Your pace quickens instinctively. The children, weary from the long journey, shuffle behind, dragging their feet. But you urge them on, whispering through clenched teeth. Keep moving, faster. This is unicorn country. Unicorns. They didn't come with rainbows or fairy dust. In the old days, they were feared. Their hooves thundered across the earth, their muscled bodies carved from power itself, and on their heads, the mighty spear, sharp enough to skewer a man clean through. These were not creatures to admire from a distance. They were fast, faster than any horse, and if you were unfortunate enough to encounter one, well, no one ever lived to tell that tale. Maybe you've heard stories of the Johanna family. They weren't so lucky. It took a unicorn 2 minutes to wipe them out. The beast left their youngest limp on its horn, vanishing back into the wilderness, leaving behind nothing but terror. For centuries, these creatures were not just figments of imagination. Artists like Hieronymus Bosch painted their towering forms, etched with detail. But perhaps the clearest evidence lies in the coats of arms. The unicorn, as seen in the royal coats of arms, wasn't a symbol of peace. In Scotland and beyond, it symbolized wild, untamable strength. Sure, they tell you it stood for purity, bravery, but that's only half the story. The chains around its neck, they weren't there for decoration. The chains were a warning. Royal power barely kept this beast in check. And when it appeared alongside the lion, the two creatures were said to represent the forces of nature, eternal enemies in a world far older than our modern maps can show. This pairing, the lion and the unicorn, dates back to ancient Babylon. Each represented the seasonal forces. The unicorn, the harbinger of spring, and the lion, the embodiment of summer. But their rivalry also hinted at something darker. The world was not always the way we see it now. Look at the Australian coat of arms. At first glance, you might think it's innocent. An emu and a kangaroo standing proud. Harmless, right? But even Australia has its tales of devastation. Take the Emu War of 1932. Farmers, their crops ravaged, turned to the military for help. The emus, running in the tens of thousands, simply overwhelmed them. Armed with machine guns, the soldiers fired thousands of rounds. Let that sink in. A modern military force defeated by giant hungry birds. And if that sounds absurd to you, imagine facing a charging unicorn. Now imagine what would happen if those ferocious creatures returned today. Civilization ending? Perhaps. After all, it wasn't that long ago that dragons raided towns, or that lion men in shining armor led armies against fortified cities. When you look at these shields, understand this, those creatures were attacking. That lion wearing a crown, that wasn't just a symbol of royalty, it represented a civilization in peril, under siege, And when a bird with wings spread across a shield was featured, it wasn't for beauty, it was because that civilization commanded the skies, flight, superiority. No wonder those shields were never under attack. There was no chance for land-bound beasts, but ground-bound civilizations faced horrors beyond imagination. Unicorns, lion men, and dragons weren't fantasy. They were civilization-ending threats. So, next time you hear the word unicorn, don't think of rainbows and fairy tales. Think of a creature, horn lowered, charging straight at you. And remember, it wasn't that long ago.